Let's try that again. Okay. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is the protest hearing for LAFCo 1708, the Ventura County Fire Protection District annexation of Santa Paula. I am Kai Luoma. I'm the Executive Officer for the Ventura Local Agency Formation Commission, better known as LAFCo. The Commission has delegated the authority to conduct protest proceedings to the Executive Officer. That's why I am here and not the full Commission. So the purpose of this protest hearing really is to provide the last opportunity for registered voters and property owners within the city to submit written protests against the Commission's approval of the annexation of the district to the Fire Protection District. Now, the Commission approved this annexation back on January 17th, and it was subject to protest proceedings. The Commission did allow a 60-day protest period during which property owners and registered voters could file written protests against these proceedings. Now, at this hearing, we are required to allow you an opportunity to speak and to submit written protests. I just want you to keep in mind that though you may speak, and we will have to listen, of course, and will listen, the outcome of the protest proceedings will be based entirely and completely on the number of written protests we receive. So if you have written protests, please make sure you submit them before the close of the hearing, and we can consider those. I am required under the law to briefly review or go over the resolution that approved that LAFCo adopted to approve the annexation. So I will do that very briefly. So back on January 17th, as I mentioned, the Commission did hear, discuss, and considered all oral and written testimony, both for and against the proposal, including the staff report and all written correspondence that we received. And the Commission did find that the proposal was to be in the best interest of the landowners and the present and future inhabitants of both the county and the city and the organization of local government agencies within Ventura County. And there were a couple of conditions imposed, but I won't get into those. So with that, I will open the public hearing or the protest hearing. And if you have any questions, please fill out a speaker card. If you haven't filled out a protest form and wish to do so at some time during the hearing, we do have some blank forms for you to use. So with that, I will open the protest hearing and I will call on the speakers. First is Joe Campbell.
I was going to donate my 3 minutes
To whom?
To me.
Who are you?
Steve Smead. I'm
Steve.
in the pile there.
Okay, Steve Smead. Let me just go to you then. Okay, Steve Smead. You may speak, sure.
Well, I'm going to need more
than that. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, 6 in your case.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Smead. I'm a 60-plus year resident of Santa Paula. And I've watched this process go along here, and it's very, very disturbing how it came down. Basically, I was at the LAFCo hearing when they voted not to move forward until the MOU was actually out due to the fact that they didn't know what was in the MOU. So then they had another hearing, apparently on February 17th, in which apparently a deal, and it appears it was a backroom deal, where the City of Santa Paula Council gave away 2 large areas of land in the Santa Paula, was in our sphere of influence, to the county. In exchange for that, the LAFCo board said, okay, we're going to vote and we're going to move this MOU forward, even though there is no MOU at this point. So that's my first disagreement with this process that should be looked at. I can't understand how this board, this commission, in one hearing said, we're not going to pass this because we don't know what's in this agreement, and then at the next hearing, they turn around and pass it, apparently because there was some kind of a deal done between the City of Santa Paula and the members of this commission. So right there, that should stop this process temporarily until that is looked into. Also, all the individuals that are opposed to this were under the assumption that when this commission said we're not going to do it until the MOU is actually out, we're not going to pass it, and then they turn right around and pass it. Well, of course, that caught everybody off guard, and the protest period started then, as opposed to waiting till the MOU came out and then starting the protest period. And at the very least, that's what should happen in this case, because this commission voted on something that they didn't even know it was in. It reminds me of Nancy Pelosi. Let's pass it and then we'll see what's in it. So the reality of it here at this point in time is the commission, the LAFCo commission here, passed a resolution to accept something that they didn't even have in their possession at that point. So another thing I do kind of want to cover, I want to make sure I'm understanding what is actually going on in regard to this whole situation. It appears that the county has negotiated another great revenue stream from the poorest city in the county, which is Santa Paula. And what they're going to do is the city of Santa Paula is going to pay the county to take our fire department away to the tune of about $5.5 million. When you consider the $4 million in impact fees that will come from Limoneira and the $1.5 million that the lot, that the 1.5 acre lot that's in the middle of this development will generate, right out of the chute, between that and the first year's cost of this, we're pushing $9 million that we're going to give the county of Ventura to take over our fire department within the first year. Then it appears, in addition to that, we're going to give them some additional revenue forever, which is going to equate to almost 80% of the property tax revenue that the city of Santa Paula receives, and that is forever. The city of Santa Paula, like the city of Thousand Oaks, which is a great example, they're paying over $40 million a year for fire protection, which is completely crazy. The city of Santa Paula cannot afford. We're not Thousand Oaks. It's a poor community, and this will devastate the finances of the city of Santa Paula. It's just unbelievable that our city council is blind to these facts, and they think that the city of Santa Paula can give away 80% of their property tax revenue forever. So when Limoneira gets built out at the end of this, next 10 years, the county fire department is going to receive another $1 million a year in property tax revenue. The city of Santa Paula is going to get a couple $100,000. That's not even going to pay for the ability of the city to support that project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smead. Your time's up.
Oh,
Thank you for your comments.
sure.
Candy Hackworth?
Okay, my name is Candy Hackworth. I'm a resident and property owner in Santa Paula. My grandparents, my parents, and myself and our family have lived there in Santa Paula all this time, all those many years. What disturbs me the most is that, not that they broke any laws or rules, but it was a little misleading when they first started in with Measure T. They was going to go for the police protection, the police department, and maybe then another percentage. I think it was going to be 50, 25, and 25. And Lord and behold here, now we're going to spend millions of dollars with the fire department. We don't even have that many fires in Santa Paula. Yes, they can go out when there's a call that somebody can't breathe, and they use a fire engine to go out there and answer this call. But it doesn't mean it's a fire. I really detest the idea that they cut the limitation. They have not informed the public. They have not published anything in the paper, really, as to what's going on and how the city is intending, our city council is intending to vote. So they have been misleading us all this time. I hope that we put a stop to it right here and now, and that they listen to the property owners who oppose this move. We do not want to go bankrupt in our city. I wish that they would, if they say we have 60 days in which to file to oppose, that they would go ahead and let us know that there are 60 days in which we can protest, not this behind the doors type of shenanigans that's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hackworth. Dennis Tate?
Give my minutes to somebody if they want. Did Steve speak again?
Yeah, then I can go and finish what I was saying.
Okay. Okay, sure. Another 3 minutes? Does anyone else want to give some time to?
Yeah, Tim Mason, he'll give
Okay, give me a second.
I'm only going to need about 6 more minutes.
Okay, Tim Mason, you relinquish your time as well? Okay. All right, another 6 minutes?
So as I was saying, the City Council, of course, is moving forward with this. Another very bad thing about this is this council that's voting for this was elected and put into office by the Santa Paula Fire Department. Now, I am going to say there are a small number of people in Santa Paula that are going to benefit from this handsomely, and that is the actual firemen themselves. They will get a substantial pay raise and benefits increase by going to the county as long as they can qualify, and I'm sure there's been some deal somewhere where they're going to let them into the county fire system and probably at reduced requirements. I haven't seen any of this, but that's the assumption based on, knowing the firemen that are on our fire department currently. There's several of them that I don't believe could qualify for the county if they went through the current process with no restrictions. So this all comes back to the situation where the city of Santa Paula is going to give away almost 80% of the property tax revenue that is generated currently and in the future forever. And it is very disappointing that the firemen don't see this and understand this, and that they're willing to lobby and push to become part of the county for their own gain, not for any gain to the city. They're going to claim that our fire department's terrible and that, the equipment's all falling apart and our fire stations are inadequate. I want somebody to tell me at one time where a life has been lost or property damage has been a problem because of the current operations of the city of Santa Paula. With what they do on a day-to-day basis, they are more than adequate to protect the city of Santa Paula. Most cities our size have one fire department station. We have two. 4.5 miles they protect. And again, they're running around picking ladies up that trip over curbs, and people have panic attacks on a weekly basis in Taco Bell. I followed them and have watched them, so it's quite entertaining, some of the stuff they do. The bottom line, again, is the fact that the city of Santa Paula will be headed down a road to bankruptcy if this is allowed to proceed. And again, I can't understand how the city council is so blind to this, and are they so beholden to the firemen's union to go ahead and let this take place. Unfortunately, the council people that are in there now, when this thing comes apart on us, they'll be long gone, and there will be absolutely no accountability for them. Although I can say this, based on the number of people I've talked to, when they're up for re-election, if this goes through, they will pay the price at that point, if it's really a price to them, because they will have gotten what they wanted. So this board here really should consider allowing a fresh 60-day protest period to start, a designated date and an end date, and there will be 4,000 protest votes given to this board here, and then they can see the true opposition of what's really going on. I've got over 1,000 signatures in 10 days on this. So it's now the word's finally starting to spread. People are becoming aware of how financially devastating this will be to the city of Santa Paula. And there's really no reason that you shouldn't grant a 60-day extension due to the fact that the way this came down, and it was really done with a backroom deal, there's no reason that not to give the citizens the opportunity to let the people of Santa Paula actually vote on this issue. Why wouldn't they allow that to happen? There's no good reason to turn down the citizens of Santa Paula giving them the opportunity to vote. None that I can think of anyway. Maybe somebody else has some ideas. The reality of it is this is the most critical financial decision that the city of Santa Paula has ever made. This is going to cost the city of Santa Paula the most money that they have ever expended for services outside the city. And it is forever. The MOU does not allow any way of going back. just like Thousand Oaks, they've tried to get out of that insane $40+ million price tag they're paying for fire protection, and unfortunately, to no avail. They're still paying, triple what it should cost to provide fire protection over there, and on it goes. And of course, the county, I do understand the county's position. They love this. This is going to be another cash cow for them indefinitely. And as time goes on, we all know prices over time will go up on real estate, and they will receive additional revenue, large amounts of revenue, from the poor city in the county, Santa Paula. So I'm urging you to at least consider giving us a reasonable 60-day period to protest this and allow the people of Santa Paula to actually vote on this instead of 4 individuals who are beholden to the beneficiaries of this initiative. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a brief comment regarding your comments and the request for additional time. That's not the purpose of this hearing, and I don't have the authority to do that. The commission set that, and that was established under state law. The commission is not going to reconsider their approval at this time. Now we're beyond that approval. We're into this protest process, and we are bound by the limitation of the protest process as outlined in state law. So the only outcome today is going to be based solely on the number of written protests that are received today. I will make a determination whether the annexation should proceed, whether the annexation is going to be subject to a vote of the voters in the city, or whether proceedings are terminated. I don't have any discretion other than to make one of those 3 determinations, and that's based solely on the number of protests that are received today. I just want to make that clear as we go on, okay?
And that number is?
I'm sorry?
That number of protest votes you need to receive is? If it's fewer than 25% of protests from voters or landowners, then I must order the annexation to proceed subject to the conditions of approval. If it's between 25% and 50%, then it's subject to approval by the voters. If it's more than 50% of the voters, then proceedings are terminated. And we will, after we close the public hearing, we will take a few minutes, recess, count the number of protests that we receive, and then I'll make a determination if I can. So, okay, Jeff Cohen.
Well, good afternoon. I've lived in Santa Paula off and on for about 25 years, and I just want to add that this whole thing stinks. First off, I used to work for the state of California, Department of Fish and Wildlife. I think that there's a violation of the Jones Act here. They based their vote upon information that was not made public. They never shared any spreadsheets or figures that they kept talking about at these meetings, but they didn't share it with the public. Isn't that a violation of the Jones, the Brown Act? I'm thinking Jones Act. That's another issue. And one other thing, well, I got a couple things. I'm here, and I didn't receive any donations from the Firemen's Union. So I guess I'm on my own here. And then there's also number 1 priority for Santa Paula is the streets. It isn't our firefighters. They did a good job during the Thomas fire. It's the streets. I defy our city councilman to ride a bicycle over our streets. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the rest of the county. It's an embarrassment to the state. Our streets are absolutely a washboard. Maybe they're making money off of repair on their vehicle carriage and their wheels and their undercarriages, but that's the number 1. That was taken a couple years ago. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, there is potentially a conflict of interest. The guy that negotiated with the county is a member of the fire department. Did he have something to gain? Yes, by going over there. So there's a conflict of interest, and also a person that voted on it is on the city council. He works for the county. So, and he didn't recuse himself from the vote. Other than that, I guess I don't have any problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Judy Rice.
Kai and Michael Walker, it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you, Kai, for sharing conversation with me on Monday. I have 3 points of interest. We have not had sufficient time to consider the MOA. The MOA differs from what was previously represented. For example, the MOA refers to a 79% property tax allocation. The amount should be 16.5%. This was the amount represented and agreed to. The 79% figure represents the 16.5 allocation after the city receives its property tax allocation after various taxes, measures, and taxing agencies are paid. However, the 79% is never the revenue sharing amount that was agreed upon. I know that's a lot to take in, but now think about it. Number 2, the fire unions have interfered with our efforts to collect protest votes and signatures. The fire union came and stood in front of me when I went to Vaughn's with 2 other people on Saturday. 3 of our firemen came in, and one of the captains from the county fire department came. And I thought, well, this is a little premature for a county fire captain to be there. I introduced myself, and believe it or not, we knew a mutual relative of his. But as we were talking with people coming up, the firemen, one of them in particular, interceded and would say, don't vote for that. Don't put your signature on that. You're doing the wrong thing. And they'd hold up cards. Then the mother and the wife of one of them came over after we were asked to move over, which we did. And they said, we pray every night that our son and our husband comes home, our children pray. Well, we formed a huge group. And Vaughn's manager said, 1 complaint and you're out. Well, somebody went in and filed a complaint, and we were out. I feel like we were not given adequate time to even present the form for people to sign. I average at least 30 calls a day, and at 9:30 last night, a family of 18 came to my house and signed this form. It's not about the firemen. It's about the cost, and it's about the people want to vote for this. This is major. The city council on Monday night said they're going to take a poll with 300 people from the city on marijuana. Give me a break. Did anybody take a poll on the citizens that are going to be paying for this? This is their tax revenue. The city manager said 2 weeks ago we are the lowest tax revenue in the county, possibly the state. So you're going to take 16.5 of 20% that we get? We will be bankrupt, and I discussed that with you, Kai, on Monday. In the short time since the MOA was released, we have already calculated probably, I wouldn't say 400 signatures. The people want to vote and be heard. We will present the signatures to the Board of Supervisors and tell them that we have asked for an extension and more time, but we have been ignored. I'm asking you both, what would we need to show or do to obtain an extension to the protest vote? What statute are you relying on to deny us the extension?
Your time's up, first of all.
Thank you.
Okay. In answer to your question, we are limited under LAFCo law. There's a specific provision that on how to do protest proceedings and how much time can be allotted, and we do not have any discretion to extend that time.
So we're determined, we're going to take
Ms. Rice,
4,000 votes.
your time is up.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you, thank you so much. Maxine McCaig?
I will give my time to Judy.
Oh, okay, come on back, Judy.
Well, I basically have nothing more to say other than we're not going to give up on this, Kai. We're going to pursue this. And if there has been a wrongdoing, we'll bring in legal procedures. It was an embarrassment to me on Saturday for our fire department to be there and voice their opinions. Two of the people that were with me felt they were very disrespectful to me, and I said, oh, blow them off. But it's an embarrassment to go to your local market and have 20 or 30 people come up to sign something and then be intimidated by the fire. And to be honest with you, and I can prove this, I have had citizens say, we can't sign that because we're afraid of retaliation. And I have said, you have to be kidding me. These young men have taken an oath to help, to protect us. They're afraid to sign it. That to me is shameful. I don't know what we can do about it. It's not about the firemen. And I know they'll benefit by coming to the county, but I think that the city itself will have a great loss. If we go, I discussed this with you, if we go into bankruptcy, what happens? Maybe it's better for us to, all of you, we all go into bankruptcy and go to the county. Get the sheriff department in. We won't have to worry about the police department anymore, and let them fix our streets and our roads, because I guarantee you the next thing that will happen is our water rates are going to go up. My water bill is $400 to $500 a month. And I do that because my yard is my peaceful place. I spend most of my time in it. But most of the poor people can't afford to live in Santa Paula. If they raise the water rates, Steve Smead, Steve Colvard will raise the rents, they'll have to move out. So you'll eliminate our population. We will be what I call the newlywed and the nearly dead. Little laughter, kids? Yeah, we are not Ojai, and we never will be Ojai, but Ojai's always been referred to as the poor man's Montecito. I'm a retired real estate appraiser, so that's where I get that. But we're in big trouble. We're a poor, poor city, and it's going to affect the poorest of all the people in the county. So they'll move. I don't know where they'll move. We already have homeless people, so we'll just increase that, I guess, or have 10 people in every garage, and then we won't be able to afford to have the police or the protection to take care of those people. I don't know. I see it as a horrible, horrible thing to happen. And the county is going to have all this money. What was it that Mark Lorenzen, your county chief, said? You have $90 million in reserves? I mean, that's almost shameful. It's becoming kind of like the mafia.
Okay.
There you have it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rice. Ken Brooks.
I have nothing more to add.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Jonathan Mason.
I'm Jonathan Mason, almost a lifelong resident of Santa Paula. I'm sure that the Ventura County Fire Department, they'll do a great job, and I think they're a great organization. The problem I have is this deal is just costing way too much for the citizens of Santa Paula. They're taking all this money way into the future that is just going to just bankrupt us. And anyway, I guess that's about all I have to say. It wouldn't mean much anyway. But
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. And lastly, Antonio Ikea? Anthony for?
Anthony.
All right.
Good afternoon.
That's AKA. I just saw
I'm
that.
here to oppose the annexation simply because it's too expensive. I have seen the city of Santa Paula, specifically the city council. I'll use a word, instead of lie, I'll use the word snooker, okay? You know the word snooker, okay? All right. They were negotiating this deal with County Fire long before Measure T was even put on the ballot. Are you familiar with Measure T? Measure T was supposed to be for fire, police, youth services, and roads. What did they do with the first year's fire T money? Do you happen to know?
I do not.
They gave across-the-board raises to everyone in the city. That money is gone. Again, they snookered us, right? They were negotiating with county even while Measure T was a ballot or becoming a ballot measure, all right? They snookered us on another item. Anytime you want to pass a ballot measure or anything, you got to say for the children. It's for the children. All right? I saw my property taxes go up $300, which I can barely afford. All right? With a school bond issue that, again, the city council endorsed and pushed through. All right? And now we have a Board of Education that's constantly arguing over how to spend the money when they sold it as a do-good for the schools and so forth, that it was going to be spent. Air conditioning. Oh, we must air condition the schools. Oh, my God, no, that's too costly. $500,000 a year to operate it. Oh, $7 million to install. We're being snookered constantly by our city council. This is a small city. I have a son and I have a grandson in law enforcement, and I have nephews in fire, okay? And I'm not putting down our fire department. They do a fantastic job of what they got. But do you know what the joke is in Los Angeles County about Santa Paula? How many trash bin fires did you go to this month? That's the kind of stuff we hear. Now, I know better than that. They go to everything, okay? We even go to things, mutual aid things. That's great, okay? But we are a small city, and they're doing a darn good job, and there is opportunity to improve it, but not this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the speaker cards that we have. At this time, if you do have any written protests that you have not submitted, please come down and do so and submit them to Rochelle, because once I close this public hearing, then we will not be able to accept any more. I do appreciate all of you coming. I do appreciate you participating in this process, and I do understand your concerns. I do just want to reiterate that I have no discretion on the outcome of this hearing. So with that, I will close the hearing, and we are going to take a short recess and count the protests that we have received, and if I am able, I will come out and make a determination at that time. So thank you. Okay, thank you all. We'll call the meeting back to order. So according to County Elections Division, there are 11,619 registered voters in the city. And according to County Geographical Information System, there are 7,164 parcels in the city. So 25% of voters would be 2,904, and 25% of property owners would be 1,791. Anything less than that, I am required to order the annexation to proceed. We received written protests from 23 voters and 32 property owners. Therefore, I am required by Government Code 57075 to order the annexation without an election upon the satisfaction of the conditions of approval in Resolution 1708. And that concludes this meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Ty, may I have those protest sheets back, please?
We can make copies for you and give you copies of, yeah, sure. Do you want me to send them to you, or do you want to come up to the LAFCo office and wait, or?
It would be easier, just send them to me.